All right, so if you're watching this after the live stream has ended, you can go check and see if the coupon still works. Basically, you get 50% off for my Ultimate Picking Mastery course. And this course has helped a lot of people, and it's basically the best way that I know when it comes to how to really develop your Ultimate Picking. In a 3-note per string context in this one, but you can apply the same principles to anything really. And it's not a quick fix. Coffee time here. So don't expect to become Paul Gilbert in 1 week. But if you keep at it, you will definitely see a huge improvement in your own picking. All right, so let's just check out the Ultimate Picking course then. So hopefully you all can see this. So here's the course. And like I said in the beginning, it's 50% off now. You can see in the description. Use the code BLACKWEEK, and this is available for the first 50 people who get it. So basically, you have start here, and this is very important actually, that you can read the text hopefully, but that you should never push through any kind of discomfort. It's super important to always stay on top of that and don't be like, yeah, no pain, no gain. That does not apply to guitar practice at all. Then how to approach the course, and basically a lot of this stuff here. And I think this is an important point. You need a lot of time to develop your Ultimate Picking, and that's why so few people actually have a good picking technique, even though they might have been playing for years. So I like this analogy. Think of it like doing push-ups. If you do 10,000 push-ups in 3 months as compared to 3 years, what will have the most impact on your physique? So basically, some skills will grow the fastest when you have the requisite volume of practice invested. So when I went to GIT, I had Nick Nolan was the instructor for the rock guitar course, and basically this holds true for what I've seen in my teaching throughout the years as well, with hundreds of students. So it's very, it takes time, but as you can see here, most students impress themselves after around 3 months of practicing alternate picking for 2 hours per day. You know, that's quite a time commitment, right? But if you look at it, if you zoom out, it's not that bad. It's like if you know, if you go on a diet, or like you try to put on muscle, whatever you want to do, and usually it's going to be around 2 to 3 months of kind of sucky work, right? But it's worth it. And the same thing here. If you put in this time, you're going to get such outsized returns compared to like, yeah, I'm going to do 20 minutes of alternate picking forever. So that's not something that you need to do. So you can just push hard for around 3 months and you will get to a completely different level in your picking technique. So it's super important to sort of realize that. And if you can't do 2 hours per day, if that's impossible, then obviously as much as you can do, we'll have to do. So yeah, it's, oh, I like that I wrote that here. Oh, wow, look at that. If you can't do 2 hours, do as much as you can. You will still improve over time, but it might take you longer to get there. So basically, you have the routine here, and we have 6 different steps: transition time, string crossing, single string, 8 fundamental patterns, string skipping, and subdivisions. So this will take around 90 to 100 minutes at the tempos given. You shouldn't exceed those tempos, but if you can't do it accurately, you need to bring the tempos down for those exercises. Absolute accuracy is standard. So this is super important. So you don't push the tempo as you practice this. You push the tempo for fun afterwards. So that's an important part. All right, I have to go back and see anyone in the chat. Hey, man. Oh, you do? I used to have, I recorded all of that stuff on cassette, but I don't know where the cassettes are. And also, I don't know how you would even transfer that. It would be a Bolek. Do you have a lot of stuff like that, Jalmo? Because I have a bunch of Paul Gilbert, and I would love to you know, I hate to use the word trade because I think, you know, I don't really care. I don't need like, oh, I get one of yours and you get one of mine. I don't care about that. So whatever I have that you're interested in, you can get that in, you know, exchange. But I love these old seminars. Like, you know, I'm looking for any Vinnie Moore, Gambale, or Paul Gilbert. So yeah, I love it. So yeah, but Nick, such a great, I mean, he's not dead, but he was such a great instructor. Love that guy. Great player as well. He has released a solo album when I was there, and killer playing on it. Morning, Ian. Well, Ian, you already have the alternate picking mastery course, right? And you're also part of Practice Room Pro, so you have everything anyway. But I'm just having a stream to make people aware that it's on Black Week offer right now. again, it would be really embarrassing if you're like, yeah, I got it, it's shit. That would be very awkward. No, but I know it's not shit, but you know, but even still, I can make the best course known to man, but if no one sits down and actually practices it, it won't work. So, and I think a lot of people do that. They collect courses, and they don't do them, and then, excuse the pun, of course, it's not gonna work. And I think a problem with a lot of courses is that you get a lot of stuff, but it is not necessarily like do this every day, right? So I think that's the big key for me, at least in my own practicing, was seeing Vinnie Moore's first instructional video, and he actually had like, well, I did this every day, and he goes through his picking technique routine that he had at the time, and that routine worked really well for me. But I have changed it a lot as well, and basically used that as a template, and added a lot of exercises and things like that. But any routine will be better than just doing random licks every day. Let's see. Yeah, I have one audio. Awesome. I have the National Guitar Workshop Gambale thing. I don't have the GIT seminar though, but I have another seminar that he did that he's playing is insane. Could you email me, Jermo? If you email me there, and I will, we can, I don't know how you do, I use Dropbox, and I can just give you access to the stuff that I have, if you like. But I would absolutely love the Vinnie Moore GIT seminar and the Gambale thing as well. But was that a GIT seminar though? The Vinnie Moore, I don't think you had a Vinnie Moore GIT seminar when we talked. Is that something new that you have? And also the Frank Gambale GIT seminar, I don't think you had that before either. Was that something you got recently? Have a great day, Ian. Nice to have you check in and get and give me some props for the course. That's good. No, we're talking on. You use the same name on Messenger? Because I didn't recognize your name right away here. I'm sure there's a riveting stream for other people, but this is cool stuff. But is the Vinnie Moore stuff new and the Frank Gambale stuff new? The seminars? Because I think when we talked a year ago or so, I don't think you had a GIT seminar with Vinnie Moore. Oh, that would be awesome. Would you be able to send me a link? And I'm always on the lookout for any of those guys, like old school seminars. That's cool. I like Kotzen, but he was never my favorite. Because I think it's because I was so obsessed with pickings. I really never got into him in that regard. But he's a great player, obviously. But I'm you know, I love the neoclassical guys. You know, Greg Howe, McAlpine, Vinnie Moore. So. Also, I mean, you have so many things when it comes to this stuff that I don't really have a lot of things to offer you. But I believe I gave you the access to all my courses, right? And I'm not sure if you actually signed up for that or not. If you didn't and you want to do it, I can send it again. But I would really love those new seminars. Let's see. I wish MI would. So the library at MI, when I went there, so MI Musicians Institute, they had like a ton of seminars that was recorded at the school because they have, you know, this setup where they, you know, professional setup. And I wish they would just chuck that out online. They've done some of it. So if you go to Musicians Institute's YouTube channel, that's where you can see, like, you have Bonamassa, you have some old Gambale concerts, and all that stuff is from their library. So I wish they would just, you know, release some more stuff, because it's not like they're gonna make money from it anyway. So, well, they actually might if they put it on YouTube. You know, it's these things that should be available, I think, because it's not like they're ripping off a commercial instructional video or something. Fuck, did I put that? I actually talked to TJ Helmerich here. I'm looking at my messenger. I sent him a message. He's a really cool guy. Where's... There we go. Sent you a message. Is that a thing? That I would have access to the library? Well, that would be cool, but I doubt it is. That would be awesome. But... So I'm wondering if they actually have, like, digitized everything already. That's my email, but we're already connected on Messenger, so you can just send it over there. Huh, all right, well, use my email then, see if that works. Check now. Oh, by the way, did you see this thing? This might be something you'd be interested in. Where is it? I'm sending that on Messenger though. It's so you have part 1 and part 2. Actually, this was part 2 that I sent, but you can find part 1 from the same channel. It's Paul Gilbert Clinic. I don't believe you have it. I think that's the guy who has the SoundCloud channel was at the clinic. Great playing by Paul, as always. Oh, you got that already. Okay. So the Gambale GIT thing and the Vinnie Moore GIT thing, that's new that you found recently, or? Because that I'm really looking forward to checking that out. Bear with me here, it's just 8 o'clock in Sweden. I do have coffee though, so no excuses. Checking my mail. Let's see. Awesome. That worked really well. Because This must have been recorded by some student, right? Because I don't think this was not available even in the library. At GIT, I mean. So that's pretty cool. I mean, everyone at GIT, everyone had these like recorders. So I'm probably going to be all kinds of seminars floating around out there.
I used Joe Ibanez guitar.
This is awesome. Thanks so much, man. So that Gambale thing, they had one at GIT when I was there, but this sounds like this might be earlier, the one that you're talking about now, that you have. But the one that they had in the library was, I think you came back from the tour with Chicoria, and he said he was working a lot on his timing. So. Just, I mean, if you're playing with Dave Weckl and Chicoria, you need to have that together. So that's one thing that I think is so cool about Frank. He's such an amazing player, but it was also like, yeah, you know, I had some issues with the timing stuff on when I first started with Chicoria. So I had a break after the first tour, and then I really worked on it. And then he dealt with it. That's, you know, a lot of people would be like, no, I was always awesome. But he's very I think that's why he's so good still, because he doesn't bullshit himself. So. Cool. Yeah, got it. If you're still live on my live stream. Sorry everyone, but this is very exciting stuff for me, getting old seminars. Is this the same, there's one online that I've seen that it's like, it seems to be part of a seminar or something, but I don't think is that the same thing? Also, I'm wondering how much of the Actually, have you seen any open counseling stuff with Frank? You know, like Paul Gilbert have all these open counseling things. Uh, it was really cool. See where I put this stuff. Oh, this is way longer actually. That's cool. Awesome. Ah. Yeah. No audio either. That's. Guess that student didn't give a shit. Oh, that would be awesome. Anything by Frank, I'm super into. So, and open counseling would be amazing to hear actually, because they get into such different things then, right? And I don't give a shit about audio quality either. You know, it's just interesting to hear. It's like in the Paul Gilbert ones that I have, open counseling. That's where he talks about practicing and you know how. And since this is these open counseling things, anyone listening who doesn't know what an open counseling is, it's basically the way that they teach like group lessons at GIT. So that you would just come into a room kind of like this, but amps all around, and then you would sit down and you can ask whatever instructor was in the room at that slot questions. But I think they were so much closer to the time where they actually developed their fundamental chops, so they have more of an idea of what they actually did. Because when you listen to them now, like, oh yeah, you know, I played some scales or whatever, and it's not, you don't get the details, and then sort of also it feels you don't really get the truth otherwise. So. So, Guillermo, sorry, Guillermo, oh my God, I can't even speak today. Guillermo, there we go. Do you zip these up for me right now, or do you have them sort of linked and ready to go already? Either way, I appreciate it. So. I know what I'm gonna be doing for my, you know, have my early late morning fix. back in the day, it used to be, well, it was like 2005, 2006. There was this site, I think it was a British guy, and he had like this big list of bootlegs on video, and then you paid him basically for just recording it and sending a cassette, like a VHS. So it's very, I mean, that's illegal to sell it, right? But he didn't. I think it felt like he did it just for, getting it out there. It wasn't for profit necessarily, because it wasn't. It was wasn't expensive. You paid for the VHS and the shipping, and a little bit of his time. So, and I got all kinds of stuff I had like all old Marshall Harrison stuff, some T.J. Helmrich. Well, he had all kinds of stuff. So I wonder if he's. I would assume he's all digital now, if he's still doing it. But he had he had a ton. Could you send the link to the open counselings with Frank, please? That sounds really interesting. By the way, did you see that Joey Tafoya? Hey Ryan, Guillermo, did you see that Joey Tafoya is like a bodyguard now? Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, thank you so much, man. It's gonna be very interesting to listen to. But apparently he's quite interesting, Joey Tafoya. When I was at GIT, they said like he was like an amazing pinball player. It was kind of a weird, thing, but he seems to be. He's awesome at guitar, and yeah. I think I saw a clip from him doing that shooting range And yeah, you can tell like the same amount of practice going into guitar went into shooting. So yeah, it's very impressive guy actually. Because he's not that young, so he must have gotten into this bodyguard stuff in his 50s, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, all that stuff is on VHS. I need to find it and then try to find a way to get it on. But I think there's one of the clips at least of Marshall is already online. I didn't put it up there, but it's the same video because it's him improvising over something and he's playing some really stretchy stuff. I think some of it is, part of it is this stuff, if you remember when he was jamming with Daryl Gable. Alright, we're 6 people here. Woo! So, besides Orion and Guillermo, who's here? Reveal yourselves. Thanks, Ryan. Well, it's a great great exercise to get these down, for example, because you know can be annoying. So, what Marshall demos would that be? When Marshall had like he did some stuff from Chops from Hell, if you remember that website. I don't know what happened with that website. Maybe it's still there, but it's yeah, it seemed to disappear a little bit. Oh yeah. So you probably already know because you get inundated with emails, but it's Black Week now, so sales everywhere. But I have 50% off of Alternate Picking Mastery, which I have linked down below. But also, if you go to the practice room community, all the courses are 50% off, already discounted in there right now. So check that out. I realize I haven't linked it. Is that the one with Paul Hansen as well, with Joey Tafoya? Also, I wonder if I know that George Bellas went to GIT for a concert, and I also think he had an open counseling. That would be cool to hear. I mean, I started with him. Well, I don't know why I do this, but it was with him, but it was like not even over video. It was weird. Like I had to call him in Chicago over the phone, and then he would send those CD-ROMs. It was like late 90s, so. But that was awesome, you know, you learn all that. Those two-string sweeps, basically. All the neoclassical stuff. Checking my email, Jermo. Oh, cool. Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Holy shit. So how old are these? Actually, do you have any from Steve Morse, like early clinics or something from 80s or 90s? Or Demiola would be amazing if you have any clinics. We can tell everyone that sweeping is cheating. I love Al, of course, but his instructional video is ridiculous. When he the section before, well, he talks about like it's so important to like play the notes, play the guitar, don't rely on legato and sweep picking. Alternate picking is the way. And then the very next section, he shows like, well, we're gonna play triad. And I don't alternate pick this because to think that you'll be able to alternate pick this is ridiculous. You need to go down, up, up. It's like, you just scolded people in the section before that you must alternate pick. And then the very next section is like, yeah, it doesn't work. So you have to do this. Also, Jeremy, have you checked out Steve Rosen? The guitar player, journalist, or Guitar World? Anyway, do you remember that Yngwie interview where it was like, oh, the god with the chip on his shoulder? That's all. I would love to check that out, Guillermo, the Steve Morse thing. The god with the chip on his shoulder. That interview he put up on his website, and basically whenever any journalist would use a dictaphone so they can transcribe it afterwards. But now Yngwie was sitting there noodling on the guitar, in between, and his playing is amazing. Sound quality is a bit shit, but it's still worth listening to if you like Yngwie, I think. And also, when you hear the inflection of stuff, when it's, instead of just the words on the page, it's kind of different. So. Thing is, when I started checking out guitar mags, that was like early 90s. It was all about like how to not tune your guitar, what sock should you wear on your head, guitar sucks. Here's Thurston Moore talking about how you can play guitar with a drumstick. So it wasn't a lot of, cool things to check out. So, but I was lucky enough to have an older guitar playing friend who had he gave me a whole box of guitar mags. So, yeah. So, yeah, he really was, Guillermo. That's sort of time capsule. It's so cool to hear. Anyway, but he gave me a box of all guitar mags, and I think Guitar Player was really good. I think always. I mean, the magazine did pretty much the same thing. It was just whoever they had included in the issue, right? So, I think Guitar for a Practicing Musician. I wasn't that into the tabs. I was more interested in listening to. I was always been interested in hearing how these amazing players, how they practice and stuff, because I think that's what you can learn the most from. Not necessarily I use the Adagio strings and these picks. Who gives a shit, right? But I get it now. I didn't understand that then, but that was more probably part of the contract. When you're getting interviewed, you mention the picks, otherwise we won't send them to you. Damn, this coffee is cold now. Ugh. Sorry, I heard Brandon Ellis yesterday. I'm not. He's an amazing player. I love him, but his vibrato is so aggressive on every note. Everything is like, wah! But he might be my favorite metal player right now because he has such cool shit that he plays. So musical, everything. What about you, Ryan? When did you start playing, by the way? So, Guillermo, that Steve Morse thing, when's that from? Is that like recent or is it like 80s, 90s? Hey Juan, nice to have you here, man. Oh, that's awesome. No, I would love to hear that. So that's nice. Yeah, but it was such a shift in the guitar mags. You know, let's see. What's the subject? And I think Miola was defining what it also goes something and it's. Yeah, I don't know when you. I was just talking about Demiola's REH video, where he talks about. Uh, he's like, oh, you should play the guitar, or you should, pick the strings and all that stuff. And he's really serious about it. And then the very next section is like, oh, we're gonna play triads now. You're not gonna alternate pick this. He was like, to think that you'd be able to go from here to here and hit it with an up whatever. It's like that's impossible. It's like he's. I mean, that's a real artist, right? So he's amazing. I love Al, but it's when people talk in these absolutes, it's so funny to me. It's like that. To think that you'll be able to do that, impossible. And then you have like 57 Korean kids just doing exactly that, upside down, backwards. So yeah, even if your idol, don't listen too much if they start saying that stuff isn't possible. But anyway, Ryan, the guitar mags was, since I have, I got this box of guitar mags from my friend. I had, I think it was like ranging from early 80s into early 90s or mid 90s. Not mid 90s, early 90s, because I got this like 93, 94 or something. And the drop off in guitar magazine quality, in my opinion, because they started covering all this, the grunge stuff. And I love Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that stuff now for the music now. But starting out as a player, when all I was into was like, want to pick fast, and then they're starting to talk about like, oh, let's dig into the solo in Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like, no, let's not. So I think that's the thing. Ooh, Nick Nolan. Thanks, Jermo. That's awesome. The Steve Morse one, where was that from? Do you know? Do you know? Is it from GIT as well, or was that from like some music store somewhere? Hey, Vinny. Right, Vinny? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was an exercise I've been doing with Vinny. He's a private student of mine. Working on that timing. The sort of the alternative scene made me, yeah. Thing is though, if you listen, when you listen back to the grunge stuff, it's well played. You can tell that they all those players grew up in an era where it was like, this fusion, and you have shred guitar stuff and all that shit. It was very interesting listening to that interview that Billy Corgan did with Steve Vai, I think it was. And Billy talked about, being really into Yngwie, being into all that stuff, and he would be practicing like 4 hours a day and learning all this stuff. And also, who's that guy? The guy from Weezer? Is it Rivers Cuomo or something? He also played like snippets of Far Beyond the Sun in an interview. It's like, hey, but it makes sense. Hey Seb, it makes sense though, right? Because that's the era they grew up in, so. Awesome, Guillermo. Love me some Steve Morse. He's one of my favorite players. It's so sad to see what he's going through in terms of his arm and stuff. So I thought he had a skateboarding accident, but apparently he hurt. He did, but he hurt this hand, not this hand, and this seems to be the bigger problem now. So. I kind of forget about that, but G3 was, quite big in the 90s as well. So, but it just felt like when I started playing, right, in this small town I grew up in, was like 25,000 people. You either did music or sports, right? And well, quite a good live scene in terms of like cover bands and stuff like that, and it was kind of expected if you were playing like you would make up your own solo, so there was improvisation and stuff like that was like encouraged and expected. So that was great, but also I remember like these snobby fuckers, and because I was like, oh okay, so I'm into oh, so what do you listen to? Do you listen to jazz? I was like, yeah. Oh, I bet it's Frank Gambale, isn't it? It's like, yeah, so what? So anything that was, if it was jazz, it had to be this like really, cork sniffing type stuff where everything is super, special. If you dare to have any sort of technique, it would be deemed not cool. So anyway, so it was a weird time where like, yeah, you should be good, but can't be too good, and you definitely should not work on your technique. That what a nerdy thing to do that. So, but I didn't give a fuck. What I realized, like, well, and I think that's a good lesson. Like, what only play for yourself in the sense that there's no one in this world that's going to hear your guitar playing more than you. So if you're not happy with your own guitar playing, what are you even doing, right? So yeah, but that's the thing though, Ryan. Like he's a closet shred guy because he would never admit to that during like the heydays, like oh, Yngwie, oh, blah, But in reality, he's like on the tour bus. Probably not, but it's makes sense though. If you grew up in started playing in the 80s, you probably have a just by being around other players, your technique will be better than other eras of music. Well, I think Weezer, he was, crying himself to sleep with, lying on top of dollar bills. I think it was fine. It probably felt like a fraud, like, damn it, if they just knew that I can actually play really well, everything would be over. So, Spotify got lossless now, and I was just listening to the entire Images and Words album in lossless, and that's such a well-produced album. Amazing sound quality. And Petrucci's playing is so good on that one. Can anyone confirm that this thing that, well, without the slop, I read somewhere, if I haven't like dreamt this up, that this fill from Pull Me Under, that Petrucci got that idea from the Intense Rock 2 video. That run, right? So, and adapted it, so. But I'm trying to think here, because that video came out in like 1991, and I think they demoed Pull Me Under earlier than that, but maybe you changed it after. And maybe you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But somehow I have this in my memory that he got the idea from Gilbert. See if I can find. Da-da-dum. So it's 89. There we go. Color-friendly box of all guitar mags is quite a treat to read about the shred endings. Yeah, exactly. I love those things. Actually, that was one of the. It's so weird. When I went to GIT, I'm starting to sound like one time at band camp, but when I went to GIT, one of the big things that I looked forward to was actually the library. Yeah, I'm a nerd. But basically, they had all these recorded seminars and all the instructional videos and fucking everything. But also, they had pretty much every issue of every guitar magazine, so that you could check out. And I did read all of those. It was amazing because this was mid '90s, and you just didn't have access to this shit. I mean, the internet had barely started at that point. You know, dial-up and shit. Yeah, but More Than Words was big. In Sweden as well, but yeah, the video was on everywhere, and my brother's girlfriend was like, "Extreme? You mean the two gay dudes that sit in, you know, play acoustic?" Like, they're not gay. Well, okay, but so she wasn't that into them apparently. But that wasn't really extreme though, right? It is and it isn't, but it was. So I heard that song, and then a friend of mine like, "Oh, you should check out Extreme," and I was like, "No, what? The More Than Words thing?" And I liked the song and all, but it wasn't like I was into, you know, Yngwie and stuff like that. And then he lent me Pornograffitti, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is amazing." So. High five, Orion. See. All right. Again. Let's see. All courses in the classroom. 50% off. Noodle, 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 noodle. Whoa. Anyone has a question? That's totally all right. Uh, I don't know, actually. It's more parts of songs, you know, that kind of stuff, and what else? Dream Theater stuff, and then actually the first must-learn thing was so. And what else? Some Metallica stuff, things like that. But it was. I think the very first solo I learned was. I don't remember it. I don't even remember. And also, you know, I was a big Kirk fan, but I didn't realize that this solo was actually Hetfield who played it. So, Enter Sandman is a compositional marvel, in the sense that everything is like, it's almost like. It's almost like Beethoven's Fifth, the first movement, because it's all that thing is based on everything. Thanks, Guillermo. Really appreciate this. So, Enter Sandman. This might sound ridiculous, like, oh, how can you compare Beethoven and Metallica? Well, I just did. No, but seriously though, it's what I mean is it's based on the same thing. You know, even like. So you have that thing, and then also that the verse. I don't even remember, but that thing, if you listen to it, you can hear that it's like everything is based on the same kind of material, instead of, you know, taking something and you have a really cool section of a song and then you have another cool section of the song, but it's kind of, they don't have a lot to do with each other. But Enter Sandman is like everything is connected and in a very cohesive way without getting boring. So it's very, very well made. And I think it's a reason why that song just hit the way that it hits, because it's nothing, I don't know what you would improve in that song, you know? And Kirk gets shit on a lot, right? But I do think I wouldn't, having like Petrucci as the guitar player in Metallica, it wouldn't have worked, I think, in the same way. It's not the same. Metallica needed, it just works, even though there's bunch of much better guitar players than Kirk. But what he's done works really well with Metallica, or it's just because you're so used to hearing that. So if you've heard someone else, you would think the same. But I'm not so sure, right? So I think Metallica is underrated in that regard, because a lot of their stuff is compositionally really, really well done. Yeah, it all grows from one idea, right? So it's very cool. Let's see. Thanks again, Guillermo. You're fucking the man. Yeah, I mean, I still I still find it interesting though that, you know, that he can playing guitar professionally for so long and he can still, you know, bend out of tune and do all kinds of stuff. But I do think that he does a good job in Metallica. Let's see.
I know there's some freedom in here somewhere. I just can't remember.
It's awesome. Uh, but it's kind of, if you listen to, so when I talk about songwriting with students, uh, it's the whole form of things is so important. So I usually bring up that. I don't remember what it, but the intro to this one. Sanitarium. That's a good example because it starts with this weird, you're like, what the hell's going on here? And a lot of people, when they write music, they tend to like make something in their DAW, and they have an idea, and then they start adding more and more and more and more stuff to it because they get bored because they've heard it so much, right? But you have to realize how the listener hears music, you know? So when Metallica started with this, that takes balls to start a song like that because what's going on here, right? But the listener is going to be like, oh, what's going on here? What's going to happen? And then as long as you deliver on that, promise, people are going to stick around and they're going to like it. But anyway, so this thing, right, goes into this riff. Now that becomes the main thing. And then it goes on for, I don't remember how many times, but then you have the solo coming in, and then that becomes the main thing, or melody, or what you want to call it. And now the thing that used to be the main thing is now the background accompaniment. And that's like a magic trick for listeners as well. It's like, because then it's a lesser band would probably be like, yeah, they play this once, and then straight into the solo, right? Because people might get bored. But having that sense of like, how much is enough? Because if you do one more rep, it might be too much, right? Might be too much repetition. So it's having that sense of proportion is so important when it comes to composing. So I find that all that stuff is very interesting. But a lot of people, when they write music, they just keep adding shit because they're so used to the, if you come up with an 8-bar idea and you have a riff and you're like, oh, it's a really cool riff, and then you heard the riff a million times and you're like, and you add a melody to it, it's like, yeah, this is really cool now. And then you've heard a melody, 100 times, you're like, oh shit, this is boring. And then you start adding like fills and stuff. And then when you show it to someone, they're gonna be like, oh, what's going on here? It's like too much. So they could take that thing, like start with the riff, add a melody, and then when it comes back the second time, they can add the melody with the fills. So it's having that sense of like holding back and then using what you have and developing that instead of just chucking a new thing in. And I think the same thing applies to well with the orchestral thing, right? I realized that, it's about this development, because I had no problems coming up with new melodies and whatever, but if it didn't feel connected to each other, it's just a, cool section at that point. And I think a good analogy here, well, not an analogy, but if you think about it like this, if you take your favorite, let's say orchestral music, and you pick 10 cool sections, and then you take that into AI or whatever, and make it so that everything is in kind of the same tempo, and you have keys that match, and then you have a song that starts with 8 bars of like the coolest thing, and then the next 8 bars is another really cool section, and then another cool section. But even if everything is like put to a similar tempo and keys that work together, it will still sound very disjointed and kind of schizophrenic, because one idea is awesome and the next idea is also awesome, but they're not connected. So then the whole becomes quite a mess, right? So I think that's a thing that needs to be addressed when you write. Well, my process for that would be to start with a sketch. So making sure that the it works musically, because you can actually polish a turd and put lipstick on a pig or whatever you want, but like you can have flash orchestration with a lot of string runs and shit, but if the music itself doesn't work, it doesn't work. It will always be weird. So that's an important part for me, and also it's faster to do it. So did he play in Third Eye Blind? Yeah, I've heard that name. For sure. Yeah, I mean, the Apocrypha, apart from it's just impossible to pronounce. Tony Fredianelli. But anyway, so going back to the composition stuff, I found that if I start with the ideas, it's gonna be a much better composition. And this is something, if you write songs yourself, like just guitar or whatever, just sit with your ideas in a DAW, and then you come up with one idea, but don't produce it and arrange it too much. Just have the main thing, whatever. So if it's a melody, you have the melody and maybe some chords behind it, or if it's a riff, it's a riff. So the main thing is like what your listener should have in their ear. And I got this concept from what's his name? Ron something. Amazing composer. He made most of Family Guy. Ron Jones. And he talked about the main thing, and that's basically where the composer wants the listener's ear to be. So if it's the main melody, that's going to be what you have in focus, and then if it's a riff, then it's the riff, and so on. Yeah, I have a ton of music on YouTube. I wrote this for Epidemic Sound, so not all of it is like, some of it's made to be used in TV shows and stuff like that. I actually had a lot of my music used in a big YouTube channel. So if you've seen, for whatever reason, whoever edits Hot Ones, that interview show where they eat habanero pepper or whatever, they use a ton of my music, which is kind of surreal to see, but it's cool. But I wrote it for Epidemic Sound, a music library, so not everything is going to be like music for music's sake. It's going to be used for something, production music. But this is which instruments to get the spotlight. That depends on this thing of the main thing. But the purpose of thinking like that when you compose is that you can compare ideas much better. Because if you come up, let's say you have what song should we take? We can take let's just do Enter Sandman, for example, right? If you take the main riff to Enter Sandman, like the chorus riff, like this one, right? Yes, exactly, Ryan. So when you take that riff and like with the full riff with like the everything behind it, drum, exactly as you hear it on the record, and then you compare that with like the riff that came before it or that came after it. If you have one riff that's fully produced and then the next riff you just have the idea, right? You're gonna trick yourself to thinking that whatever follow-up riff you have is not going to be good enough, because you have this like fully produced thing, and this is what I mean, what people do in DAWs, and I made this mistake as well before. Basically, I would have an idea, and then I would just polish that so it was like, oh, this is cool, and then I would be like, okay, what's going to come after this? And even if I had the perfect idea, since I couldn't go from fully produced, since I couldn't go from like this whatever riff idea I had into a fully produced idea like this, it was really hard to know if it would fit the previous idea. So, and a way around that then is just to focus on like, okay, what's the actual main thing here from the first idea, and then you can come up with like, okay, what's a good continuation here, and then you can actually compare the ideas at a more level playing field, because you're listening to them at the same production level. And then if everything works at a very scaled down level, I mean that's why, you know, MTV Unplugged, certain bands really worked well there because their music was musically sound. It wasn't about the big production on the album. They could do it with just an acoustic guitar and singing. And, you know, if you have that, then you can arrange it in all kinds of ways and still have a good piece of music. But it's very difficult to raise. Well, I did some Queens Under Pressure. Yeah, it was weird. Have you written like Razor X? Well, I was in a band when I moved down to Stockholm. I was in like a progressive band, and that was kind of Razor X-ish, but also a bit more like power metal-ish stuff. I have no recordings of that though. And also I used to write a lot of guitar instrumental stuff, but I basically have none of it left. No MP3s or anything. So ironically, if you search for my music, you're gonna hear, I think I have almost 700 tracks written for Epidemic Sound that's out there on Spotify and everywhere. Retitled, I might add. The titles, they, for whatever reason, when they ordered music from me, they were like, oh, we want you know, war choir attack music, whatever. And then I would make like 5 of those, that it would be like whatever you call it, battle choir 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they would rename it later. Thank you. But it's like, what intro music are you talking about here, Orion? See, actually. It's actually funny. I'm going into. Oh yeah, I just went to the Hot Ones channel now and put the latest episode on, and it's my music from the get-go. See. So it's like guitar stuff. Yeah. So basically, for whatever reason, they use my music. I haven't watched every episode, but when it's like the orchestral stuff, that's all the episodes I've seen. It's been basically my music all the time, which would be nice if they would. You know, they have it is music by Epidemic Sound, but they have the options just put the composer's name as well. That would have been nice, but whatever. Thing is, I don't own that music anymore. It's Epidemic Sound's music. Their thing was like, they, instead of having royalties, they would buy the music straight up. So. Strings of DNA. Do you play? That's a cool name, actually. Do you play through interface or mic? Do you have any tips for lead guitar? This is just the Archetype Petrucci thing. And this is quite a dry. Well, not that dry, but I usually, if I do this, for example. And this is a lot when you play, when you're just playing, you know, like this, sort of without any backing track stuff, right? But if you're playing to actual music, you kind of need this delay stuff, because otherwise, if you have a dry sound when you play over any type of backing track, it's gonna sound like you're playing over it instead of mixing in with it. So this is Archetype Petrucci by Neural DSP, which I think is, you know, decent. I always prefer, you know, a real amp, really, but this room is so shitty because if I'm using the amps behind me, I mean, that's a fridge, but you can't see the other one. It's so loud, so to record at the volume that I need to record to make it sound all right, whenever I hit the E note, it goes oomph in the room. And I know you can get bass traps and all that stuff, but I don't want to ruin the background either. So I'm happy with the Neural DSP. But it's a different feel to play in a real amp. I mean, this feels quite direct, so it's fine. But with a real amp, it's something like it's so connected, also direct. And I'm kind of shit at getting the sounds, really. I think I'm just doing oh, that would be cool. I actually listened to that this summer. Went to Thailand, and for whatever reason I listened to the whole Project Driver thing, and Tony's playing is amazing there. That would be cool to hear. But anyway, 6 Strings of DNA. I think the way that I do it, I usually, for anything, I pick a preset that I've liked the sound of, that's all right, and then I tweak it. Well, in that case, delay. I love delay. I prefer delay. Actually, I should put some more delay on this one. I prefer delay to reverb, actually, because it tends to just sounds better. Well, I think you need both. If you're playing over a track, you definitely need both. But I think let's see. Anyway, all right, Ryan, cool. Marsh, my Legato's pretty good, but my alternate picking is weak. Well, then you're in luck, dude. Check out the link in the description. So now the first 50, and I don't know how many's got it already, but it's not 50 left, but the first 50 get 50% off on my alternate picking course. I can show you actually what you get if you're still in here. See if I can do this. Do-do-do. So this is the course, and you have a README first, basically telling you to, don't listen to your body, and that's super important because you need to take breaks and all that stuff. Then how to approach this course, and this is a very important thing. You need to do more. Well, the reason why a lot of people don't develop a good picking technique is because they don't really do enough practice in a short amount of time. So if you think of it like this, if you do push-ups, if you do 10,000 push-ups in 3 months and compared to 3 years, what do you think will have the most impact on your physique? And that's the same type of idea. So some skills will grow the fastest when you have the requisite volume of practice invested. And my guitar teacher at GIT, Nick Nolan, he had a lot of experience with this, obviously. And this is his thing. Most students impress themselves after around 3 months of practicing alternate picking for 2 hours per day. So that's quite a far cry from, buy my guitar course and pick 200 BPMs in 21 days. It's such massive bullshit. So, yeah. So this is the thing that people don't want to hear. There's really no shortcut here. You need to spend the time required to learn the skill. It's not hard, and anyone who puts in the time and does it correctly will get results. If you can't do 2 hours, do as much as you can. You'll still improve over time, but it might take you longer to get there. And basically, you have this routine that you go through, and then you have everything is explained, and you have the tabs in PDF here, but you also have it in a zip file where you have the PDF and the Guitar Pro and all that stuff. And then basically the routine takes you through different exercises that you need to do every day. It's not necessarily fun, but it gives you amazing results. So highly recommend it. And now you have a lot of bonus stuff here as well, but this one is quite big. So there's a bonus thing. Everything below is from the course as a bonus, and you get the practice room systematic approach to alternate picking 3 notes per string. So this is kind of connected to this one in a way. It's just a different way of doing it, but a complementary way of doing it. So I wouldn't start that at the same time, because unless you intend to work on your picking for like 3-4 hours a day, which I think is not necessary. So I would do the main one first and then go into this one. And you have 2 workouts here. So you have this one, building blocks of fast picking, 7 fundamental patterns, and then you have 20 different sequences. And then you have some licks and stuff as well here. So normally this is $149, which is in itself quite cheap for what you're getting. Because if you go through this, your alternate picking will, it's an amazing improvement if you follow the way that I've laid out here. But now you get basically 2 courses for the price of 1, and it's also 50% off. So I highly suggest you check it out. So Mars, can you see the link in the description? Was it hard to see? A peak when it comes to sweeping. What do you mean? Do you think it's better to isolate a part and be hyper-focused on mastering it, or do reps from the beginning until that difficult part? Well, if you have a song that has 100 bars of music and you can play 80% of, sorry, my dogs are going crazy. If you can play 80% of that song, you know, well, then you're better off working on the 20% that you can't play well, right? So, because the question sounds like, should you focus on the harder parts, or should I just spend an equal amount of time on everything? And I think if you spend an equal amount on everything, you're gonna waste a lot of time. In regards to sweeping, you mean? I'm not understanding the question, Orion. in general, I don't think speed is a goal necessarily, but it is. For me, it's more about if you can play, like, if you have a tempo and your top speed here is playing eighth notes, the rhythms you can play it's going to be very limited, right? But if you can go or go you know, you have more control over the rhythmic variety and whatever. And of course, it's fun to do that as well. And the girls love it. No, they don't. They love this. So for me, it's more about being able to play what you want to play. And if your goal is to play, you know, AC/DC or BB King style blues, the technique requirements will be lower than if you're really into Dream Theater, for example. And it doesn't mean that it's better or worse. I think BB King is about as good as a guitar player as you can be in his style. I don't care that he couldn't sweep pick or whatever, but he wouldn't be great trying to do what Frank Gambale does, right? So it's different things. So I think a lot of people confuse that. Where it's like some people get really triggered when people play fast. Like, where's the feeling? Whereas, you know, anyway, that's a completely different discussion. But it's kind of funny to me that it's just control over the instrument, and you need that control for any style of music, because if you want to play, you know, to get that sound and not have it sound like, you need a level of technique as well. So that's all it is. It's just that the style of music that I like, with like the kind of Yngwie, that requires a different level of technique. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. So, but it is funny though, this whole thing, like, wow, the girls really love. No, they don't give a shit. It's kind of like with I saw Sam Sulek, you know, the bodybuilder guy, and he said like, well, you know, I meet a lot of girls now when I'm this big, but it turns out that it's just someone's girlfriend who says like, oh, my boyfriend really loves your videos, he watches you all the time, can I take a picture with you? So it's you know, the only people who care about bodybuilders is other dudes, because they're like, yeah, man. So it's kind of funny. Tone guitar, any tip for the left hand? My way slower. Well, try this. That's just not as a, you know, way to, well, there's two things. You can work on all hammers. So not this, but if you work on the timing of the left hand. Morning, Mike. Yeah, BB King was amazing. But do you see what I mean here? Tone guitar, that you do all hammers. So most people have no issue going from left to right, but going from right to left, you need to get this finger out of the way exactly at the same time. Sorry, you need to get this finger out of the way exactly at the same time you put this finger down. Otherwise, you won't have a sound. So you need to practice slowly and really not focus on smacking, but focus on the timing. Okay? So that's a very helpful thing to do, because if you want to play anything, with picking as well, you need to control the timing with the left hand. And then try this as well. A lot of people get into this. They try to play stuff like, and they go like isolate everything and go like. But then what you want to do instead is, if you think about when you do this on a tabletop, like you go, you know, you can hear it here. Because I'm kind of going all fingers down at once. Maybe I can do it on my phone. All fingers at once, and then I stagger it. Then I can go brr, 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 right? But I don't go. If I try to get the same speed as I do this, as isolating each finger, it doesn't work. So you need to try this. If I take 1, 2, 4 on the 5th fret here on the G string. So I try to put all 3 fingers down at the same time. And then I stagger it. Now you don't want to play like this obviously right now, but that's kind of the idea. When I go, I'm not thinking, I'm not doing finger, I'm not trying to do this, right? But it's just learning to control that. So, I mean, generally we try to push alternate picking shops up to crazy speed, right? The same as the sweeping. I mean, well, that's the thing though. The sweeping is not anything different. It's just, you know, if I want to play this, and that would be very stupid to try do that with alternate picking. Right? Thing from Under a Glass Moon. But I mean, if I go faster, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? So if I go, that's just noise to me. So, but if you want to go, that would be really annoying to try to do with alternate picking. But this is not super fast in that regard. It's just easier to do with sweep picking. So, or if I go that as well, it's not crazy fast. You know, it's but I'm using the technique that fits better. It's kind of like if you have a toolbox and all you have is a hammer, then everything is going to look like a nail, right? So you want to have a hammer, a screwdriver, and whatever. So you need different tools depending on the phrase. So it's not really about just because you can technically play faster, that's not necessarily what you want to do. Mohammed, well, that's a very common thing, and that's why I'm so big on slow practice. And a lot of people get this bit wrong because they think like, well, when you practice slowly, you will never be, you know, if I play this, if you look at my right hand here. My technique changed a bit when I went faster, but that doesn't really matter here, right? So what I need to work on the timing between these two hands, and that's not really connected to whatever pick motion I use. And I realized that when I worked on like flamenco guitar for a while, and I realized that I could synchronize my two hands as fast as I could play this hand. So if synchronization was connected to whatever motion you use and not the timing you develop between the two hands, then it would take me years to get anywhere with this as well, because I already spent so much time at that point developing my alternate picking. So, and another example of that is like Paul Gilbert recorded the first Razor X album holding the pick like this. And then he, in a few months, he changed his pick grip to this, you know. And if it was about getting the synchronization restarted again because he changed his picking technique, then it would have taken way longer. So my point is that to get the synchronization working, don't worry about the speed. You need to practice at a tempo where everything is absolutely perfect. Because when you play perfectly synchronized, if this represents that, when you get higher and higher in speed, you're gonna get, you know, a bit less perfect. So basically, let's say this is 100% perfect, and now you're gonna be going into like 90% and maybe 80, and then at like 70 or 60, people are gonna notice that you're out of sync. So it's super important to really go absolutely perfect. You don't want any flams. That's what happens, right? When you don't hit it at the same time, you get this kind of glug glug type sound, and I hate that sound. So you need a lot of reps doing it perfectly, and then you can, after you've done that for fun, you can try going faster. And also, if you're just working on the right hand technique, for example, you can practice faster stuff as well and try speed bursts and stuff like that. Because yes, you need to try to play things faster as well. But I think people get the ratio in the wrong direction. So I believe to get the best results when you develop your technique, you need like 90-95% of the time slow practice, getting as much good perfect reps in as possible, and then you push it for like 5%, and that can just be you improvising, having fun. But a lot of people get that twisted, and then they do like 80-90%, like trying to push it, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna try the slow practice, and like, oh, it didn't work. Yes, because you're giving your brain a bunch of bullshit information, so you need to really focus on it. Yeah, that's a bad syndrome as well. So do you get that, Mohammed? So that needs to be addressed by a lot of slow practice. And if you check the description, my Ultimate Picking Master course is at 50% right now. So that would be your best bet, because then you have a daily practice routine. And also, if you have any questions, just comment below each lesson and I'll help you. Basically, if you look at this, no, not that, where am I at? There we go. So here's the course. And you see here transition time, part of the routine. So here's the actual routine. So if we go in here, you have the video, obviously. And then all the tabs, and you can download the Guitar Pro and all that stuff. So it's basically my best tips condensed here. So I would take advantage of that now, because this is only for the first 50. Yeah, I actually use a very dry sound when I practice myself. I only have this on now because it's kind of dry. Would literally be dry if I didn't have that on for the stream. But when I practice, basically what I suggest is that whatever distortion you like to play with, have that on, but remove any reverb and any effects basically. So you just want to use the basic distortion. And another way that I practice this, just a tip, and another thing, I do a lot of this practice, like just the guitar itself. And I don't do that actually that fast. I just sit there and, because you can really hear what your guitar, your technique sounds like on the guitar when you do that. Because when you do the amplifier, it can kind of change things a bit. So what I don't do though is an actual clean sound on the amp, because I've realized that I could get away with stuff with a good clean sound can actually cover up quite a lot of mistakes, but that you would not sound good doing with an unamplified guitar. But then you want to use the distortion as well, so you're not sitting like having all this stuff ringing that you wouldn't necessarily hear that well when you sit without an amp. So. And I know all the guys like Paul Gilbert, Yngwie, Key Marcello, Michelangelo Badio, all those guys played a lot without an amp as they were building their technique as well. So it's a thing. Not a member, go sign up right now. It's completely free. It's a ton of stuff in there and very cool people. There's a when you sign up to join though, you're gonna get, I think it's 2 or 3 questions. And you need to reply to those because I need to let you in manually. But unless you spectacularly fail those questions, you will get let in. I have those because there's a bunch of like marketers that just join free groups and then they start, try to DM people and, oh, drop shipping. So I don't want that shit in my group. So only real guitar nerds. Well, Mohammed, when it comes to songs, I highly suggest that you work on your technique separately. Because it's a very hard road trying to build your technique by doing it with licks. And the reason for that is that if you're working on something like whatever Eric Johnson type run, for example, when you listen to the recording, that's what it sounds like. But when you sit there and practice, you're going to be like, and you're probably going to be like, oh, that doesn't sound like the recording. And then you're going to be like, oh. You're going to practice in a way worse way. And even if you do it in a good way, a lick will probably be limited in terms of like the fingers you're going to be using. And you want to develop the synchronization equally in every combination. So that's why I think working on scales and working on exercises is so good, because it's a quicker way to get where you want to go. And you don't need to do that for the whole, all of your practice time. You definitely need to learn licks and songs and all that stuff, because that's why we play. But you will get to those things faster if you have this down. So. In the latest Troy Grady video, he shows the way how to play through using when he frets on one string and picks the next from use. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Six Brottsling, another great name. I think Troy himself is a really good player, but I'm not sure how many, people who followed exactly what he talks about have they. How much have they? I've seen some posts in the forum, and there's a lot of people that they seem very they try to play things, you know, they do things very quickly, and then I think there's a lot of bad synchronization going on without me pointing anyone out. The thing is, he's correct in the observations for sure, but even he said, like, someone learning to play two-way pick slanting, as they call it, right? When you go, I need to change, right? If I do that, he said that when someone has learned that without focusing on the pick slanting, it looks more natural. And that's the way that I done it, because, you know, I developed my technique before I even knew who he was. But I've seen that with some people, like, where they really go, like, and it's super pronounced where they change the pick slant, and it looks kind of weird. So yeah. Michael Romeo licks, not really, I mean, let's see. And the diminished one, and what else does it do? Oh yeah, this one kind of. The kind of diminished stuff. Mike Romeo is great though. For me, the difficult part will ultimately is clean transitioning between strings and high speeds. I tend to lean towards economy picking automatically. Well, it's nothing wrong with economy picking. The only thing with economy picking is that when you want to get, you know, do string skipping, let's say, it's gonna be hard to do that without doing alternate picking. Well, I'm not so impressed by his speed, but what I like about Ben is he's so fucking intense the whole time. So I just feel like string's gonna break, and he seems to have a really cool personality. So let's see. I think pick slanting is something that kind of develops. Yeah, that's what it did for me, because I just noticed that when I was playing, you know, I noticed that if you look at my right hand here, there's some small shift, small variations in the angle, but that's not something I think about, because that, for me, I wanted to be able to improvise faster lines, right? And now this was just based on descending sixes, and when I say improvise, I don't think about each note individually. I think of, like, okay, I'm gonna go, let's say I go descending sixes, I can put together these different patterns that becomes like words, and then since each of them will be like 6 notes, 8 notes, 12 notes, whatever, I have time to think about it as I'm playing it, so I don't have to think like note. For example, if I do this, note. Besides being really annoying to listen to, your brain is like, what's going on, right? But if I go note, I can do that at speed. Note. No problem. So, but then the problem is you need to get these smaller building blocks together so they are really tight, because that won't just happen automatically. And that's where practicing comes in, and that's where alternate picking mastery comes in. So you have the link in the description, 50% off right now. But anyway, that's the way that I approach it, and the way that I practice that, I make sure that I work on both, you know, inside picking and outside picking, and then it, you know, comes together. Let's see. Speaking of YouTube, it's like you need to drive the Yuga for a while. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, but he's so intense. Like the way that it picks so hard, I'm like I'm scared picking that hard because I thought I would break the string even right there. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, but I would say Ben is way better than Zach Wild. I mean, okay, before someone screams at me, there's no better or worse. It's just subjective. But in terms of the technique, I think Ben is way ahead of Zach Wild. I think Zach would say that himself. But I get what you mean. But everything is so intense the whole time. It's kind of like, ugh, goddamn, man. Must burn some calories when he's playing. Hey Emil, hi John, is there any GP file for the practice room modal also picking? I've lost some time where I have a hard time focusing for long on silent PDF files. Well, I wouldn't use the Guitar Pro to practice with anyway, but if you email me, I'll be happy to send you the GP files. Just so you can have them, but I wouldn't rely on those. You're better off because the routine in the modal alternate picking is the same routine, same exercises in different modes. So once you know, like, okay, so now I have the third. So learn that, the idea behind them instead. How many different exercises in total do you do specifically for improving alternate picking speed? Well, it sounds like a broken record here, but if you look at this thing, that's me in the practice room. There we go. Here, string crossing. Let's see, where are we at? So here's the alternate picking mastery course. Whoops. So here we have the actual practice routine. And this is basically everything you need to develop your alternate picking 3 notes per string, because you also get this course and you get the bonus course here that you can get into after you've done this one. So that's the absolute best suggestion. And you also get, it's 50% off now, so. Do you suggest practice most of the time with pick resting on the string? No, I do different things. So I do, yeah, exactly right, Tom. That thing with planting, that's something I do for specific things. I don't do that for everything. I don't sit around like. That's something I would do as well, but it's not. It wouldn't replace doing it. Just getting that transition time is really important as well. But if you play sweep picking, you definitely want to do it all the time. Because that's, you know, otherwise you don't want to get into this. Separating the strokes is going to be a really, really hard time. Oh shit, 2.5 hours. I'm gonna go very soon. But thanks for hanging out, everyone. I love Brandon Ellis. He cracks me up sometimes because almost like Ben is always the widest vibrato for every note. So that's a kind of a, but it sounds great, but it becomes a bit like everything is like so intense when it comes to the vibrato. But what I love about Brandon Ellis, he's so melodic and he has such cool cool phrases. That wasn't a specific thing that he does, but it's like, you know, kind of a similar thing when he would, well, he might do something similar like that, but you know, he has a very cool sounds. So. Also, I know that Brandon does a lot of alternate picking, but he also does a lot of economy picking for stuff. So. But I think he's a very interesting player, very melodic and very cool things. Hardest technique, well, I don't know actually. None of the techniques have been really hard, and I don't say that it came easy to me, but it's just that I had to spend a lot of time on it, right? And for me it was like, well, that's probably the time that it takes. Also, since I started playing in the early 90s, I wasn't subjected to this whole bullshit thing you see now, like, oh, buy my course and you will play, you will get from 80 BPMs to 200 BPMs in 30 days. It's such massive bullshit. I hate it because what it does is it gives this weird idea in people's heads. So when they try it and they don't get the result, they think it's something wrong with them, but it's not. The course that they buy might even be good, but the time frame is wrong. You know, so, and it's not very sexy when I try to sell, you know, the alternate picking mastery, for example, like, well, you will see amazing results in 3 months. And people are like, what about, I thought it was 21 days. No, dumbass. but it's like, it takes time. That's all it is. You need to put in a lot of time or volume during a certain time, and then do that over a longer period of time, and you will feel your technique go like, oh, I've really improved now, and then like, oh shit, feels a bit worse now. But did you practice? Yeah, okay. Then it's just a development thing, and then you keep going, and then it bumps up in like bigger levels than just this gradual thing. So I don't know. No, I don't think so, because it's not, you know, I'm not sitting here like you know, having to like really push my muscle here. It, you know, and I use tens at standard tuning, so it's no. It's more about that. All the bends is all about having, you know, leverage here, and then you kind of twist the wrist. So that's the idea. Is your course designed to free up the player to play quickly and learn theory simultaneously? It's more mechanical than also a small set of exercises. It's definitely, why it's different things, but this is mainly focused on getting your alternate picking together. So theory doesn't really come into it. Also, I'm not a huge believer in doing everything at once, because if you want to work on like, if you want to build a picking technique by working on the 3 note per string scales, and you don't know the scales, and then you try to, and I've seen this with students, they're like, oh, okay, they try to remember the scale shape, and then their picking goes all out the window because they can't focus. They haven't really locked in the thing they're actually working on here, which is the picking. So even there, it's better to just take a pattern, so you can focus on the picking and not worry about where you put your fingers. Because if you can play 1 2 4 and 1 3 4 and synchronize those like that, and if I play another scale, now I play, you know, this one is still 1 3 4. As far as my brain is concerned, yeah, it's a bit stretchier, but it's no different. So working on the more fundamental patterns will enable you to get much faster with all the other scales. And then when you're starting to have your picking technique together, then you can work on scales and picking together, of course. But I think it will slow you down, I think, if you try to do the same thing, you know, try to do everything at once. And I think a better approach to learn a fretboard anyway is to do it string by string. So you can you know exactly where to go on each string, and then you do 2 strings at a time and you connect it that way, which is not necessarily what you want to work on right away with the technique exercises. So that's the idea. And if you really want to learn your fretboard and actually connect it with your hearing, this one is also on sale now, Playing What You Hear. And this is probably the most important course I've done, but since it's not about speed, people are like, huh? What's that? This will enable you to hear, recognize what you hear and be able to find it on the fretboard. Because you need both. If you recognize what you're hearing, but you don't know where those notes are on the fretboard, you might as well not know what you're hearing to begin with, right? So you need both. Hybrid picking. You mean these? Those are not. Those are based on the 2-1-2 patterns. So if you have. Then you have those kind of patterns as well. It's a thing I'm experimenting a bit with. We exchanged. If you play tune up with only pink and ring finger, does your long finger stay most? I don't do this with the fingers, if that makes sense. I try to relax. Well, I think Ton here, that's so subjective, right? Yngwie, he goes fast all the time, and I love that too. But then you have Joe Bonamassa, who might play a really fast run and then a lot of phrasing. So you can't really say like, do this, because it depends on what you want and what works with the song. Why I don't recommend practicing with Guitar Pro, it's because if you okay, I love John Petrucci. I love his writing and all that stuff. But I listen to, if you go to YouTube, you can see the isolated tracks for Metropolis from the first, not first album, Images and Words, right? And he'd have this run. You know, that thing that they do with the keyboard. And when you listen to it with the keyboard, it sounds like really clean and all that stuff. But when you listen to the isolated guitar, it's quite sloppy actually. And Petrucci was my biggest influence, pretty much, alongside Yngwie. So I'm not shitting on him here, because what happens is when you put the keyboard together with the guitar, you hear the attack from the keyboard, right? So you get the attack, and then you get sort of the guitar sound. Your ear gets the guitar sound as well. But and that's the problem. So if you practice with Guitar Pro, and you hear Guitar Pro giving you that attack, the transient on each note, you might mistake that for your own playing. So you think you're playing cleaner than you are. So you can see this sometimes when people, they play along with Guitar Pro stuff, they have some harp sound or whatever in the background. When they take that away, it never sounds as good, because unless the technique is really on point, right? Because that, you know, MIDI thing will give you your ear the attack, and then you get the guitar sound afterwards. But the important thing here, when it comes to sounding clean, is actually the attack of the note. So you get that very, very clear and very synchronized. So that's why I think practicing with Guitar Pro can be a problem if you're not careful. There's ways around it, but I think a lot of people practice with Guitar Pro and they don't really hear that their own playing might not be as on point as they think. So hope that helps. Yeah, I'm kind of unable to relax during my long form move. So yeah, I think then you need to and this is such a like, just relax, but that's the thing, because your finger can't be out here if you're relaxed, right? So that just tells you that you're not as relaxed as you should be. Right, so it will always move a little bit, but it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't react like this, going outwards. So. And I can still feel sometimes like, oh, my pinky is flying off, but then I know that it's because I'm not as relaxed as I should be. So if I'm actually relaxed, my finger should be very precise. So yeah, it's quite an important thing, because if you ever notice like, oh, you sounded great with the Guitar Pro, and then you turn it off, and you're kind of like, this doesn't sound as good. So Guitar Pro can be good though. If you're working on something rhythmical and you kind of not sure you're getting it, then you can really benefit from doing that. But as far as doing all technique practice and stuff like that, only with Guitar Pro, I don't think that's a great idea. Alright, I really have to go now, but thanks for hanging, and make sure you check out the Alternate Picking Mastery and also the Playing What You Hear. Both are 50% off. All courses inside the practice room, 50% off, and all these are for the 51st who purchase. So if you're sitting on the fence, don't do that, because once that's done, it's going to go up to normal price again. And I always get this, like, oh, I didn't know. It's like, well, then that's on you. But so now, if you know, if you're not interested, that's fine. But it just invariably happens that people come 2 days after, like, oh, I missed it. Like, okay. So go check that out. Yeah, I'm probably gonna stream more this week just to make sure people know.